And the Pledge of Allegiance. Shannon. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody was going on. Okay, how about roll call?
Yes.
Please.
Mr. Morrow.
Here.
Ms. Webster.
Here.
Ms. White.
Here.
Mr. Denise.
Here.
Thank you.
So we have no announcements and agenda modifications tonight, so we'll move on to approving the minutes from October 17th.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor? Okay. Joanne, did you have a chance to?
Yes, I
Okay.
did read over everything. I'm in favor.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. Then we're down to public input, and this is public input on anything that is not on the agenda tonight. Anybody? On the agenda. Thank you. All right, so unfinished business. Mr. Benton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few updates. I know we had spoken at the last meeting in regards to vandalism in parks and some of our restroom facilities. Just an update right now. We had one incident at the skate park a few days ago that is actively being looked at by the police department. One of the light poles was knocked over. But other than that, everything's kind of settling down a little bit for right now. But I just wanted to make sure, as these things are happening, you all are kept in tune with things that are happening across the playgrounds and our other facilities as we move forward. As we go into the new year, you know, we've got a couple projects that we're going to have to start really progressing on and moving. At the last meeting, I know we had discussed the playgrounds for Easy Street and Filbert. After the first of the year, I'm going to direct staff to go ahead and remove the Filbert Street playground. It's currently closed. We're going to go ahead and remove that item, that's playground set, and it will be it's obviously budgeted for replacement right now. So once we get the cost estimates after the first of the year, I'll bring them back to the committee for you all to select a playground that goes back into that place and ensure that it's within budget. That was that direction from the last meeting. Yep. Yes.
I'm sorry. I have a question. If we take that playground down, so there won't be anything there until we have a new playground to put up?
Correct. It's currently closed down anyways. We are unable to get parts to repair it, and our playground inspections have deemed it to be unsafe. So we've tried just fencing it off until we could get a replacement, but at this time the fencing just keeps getting removed, and we're going to move forward right after the first of the year with removing the playground. But I just want the public to be aware that we are replacing it, and that will come January or February before this board with playground designs, and then you all can make your recommendations for that.
Thank you.
The other one is Easy Street. We also have a section of that playground that we are unable to get parts for, so we have shut that section down. But that one will be replaced at the same time as Filbert, just depending on what company you all select and what playground design you go with.
Okay.
The next project that we're going to be moving forward on is the Swing and Bench Park. We've started from a staff level doing some preliminary drawings for that park. And if you notice on the west side of the street, the Harbor Lights property on the west side of Indian River Drive, the tanks were removed. We have received water sampling, soil sampling. We're just waiting on final approval from Brevard County. They're the ones that handle the tank removal permit. So once we get approval from Brevard County, we can remove the temporary well that's in place. But other than that, the property is completely cleaned up. We have seeded it with ryegrass last week, so that should be starting to take this week. And we installed a rope fence along the front border to prevent people from parking on the property. So that project will also be coming forward. And then a couple others, we've got the field goal post at Barber Street, football fields that will be coming up. We're gonna go ahead from a staff level, that was budgeted, so we're gonna go ahead and order those. Replacement of those will take place in the summertime. And also, the backstops at the baseball fields was over budget last year. We're hoping to see those prices start to come back down. So we're gonna send that out for bid, here sometime in the next couple months as well. So any questions on those projects or any other projects that we have?
I'm curious why Brevard has to approve something here.
So the tank removal permit for some reason has to go through, Brevard County handles those, through their Department of Health. That is in Indian River County. I think they must cover multiple counties, and that's the agency that was selected to cover it. We used a third party that oversaw the entire process for us. They handle all of the permitting, all of the applications. The entire tank removal was handled by them. And, you know, the other ones they've done when they had to do the one at Krabby Bill's, the same scenario. So I'm just guessing that in a certain county area, Brevard County was the agency that was chosen to oversee those.
Okay.
On the property that's cleared right now, once all the water testing is done and everything, is that property then is gonna be up for sale?
That'll be a decision up to council, what they want to do. I will say at this time, I mean, all of our testing has came back cleared. So we're just waiting for, the report has been submitted to Brevard County. We've got a copy of it with the city as well. So we're just waiting at this time for Brevard to give us the final okay to be able to pull the well point out, is simply what we're waiting for at this point. But any future direction or decisions on that property will have to come from city council.
Is it something that we would want to keep as a green space, or do you think the city wants it for tax basis? I'm just wondering if there was some way that we could keep it to use it in some way than having it sold.
You know, that'll be a discussion for city council to have as to, you know, what direction they want to give staff to go with that property. I know that, you know, all options will be on the table for them, and they'll kind of have a chance to see what all the options are for that property. If it's something that this committee, you know, feels they'd like to do something with or have a project for, then we can obviously, you know, recommend that to city council, but they'll have the ultimate say. But they also need to ask, you know, the specific boards if they have any input. I don't think at this time they've requested that, and it hasn't been discussed at this point.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? All right.
I have a question from out there. Is that?
We can have public input if they want to come up.
Yep, you can come on up.
No, you have to come stand at the microphone. You have to state your name and your residence.
Oh, okay.
And spell your name, please.
Richard Barnes, Barnes. And I live at 155 Filbert Street. About the structure for the kids, so is there like a kind of a design that we're looking at here or, you know, within some kind of a budget of?
They budget for the parks, and then we get, you know, the information, and we choose a playground.
A pretty good sized playground for them? I mean.
Oh, you know, what we can afford. Brian, you're probably better at.
That's the question is, you know, what can we afford here? Where, you know, where's that, you know, things are going up, what's the.
Right.
I mean, but you do it once, I mean, it'll last for a long time, so might as well put a nice one in there. All right, that's what I got.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'll just answer that our budget for that playground is $50,000.
50,000?
Yep, and you all, like I said before, that playground, same as we did for all of our other ones so far, will come to this board. The public is welcome to come to those meetings and provide input, but this board will make the decision on which structure you want to recommend city council to approve.
Excellent. Is that it? All right, so we're going to move on to committee member updates. Let's start with Mr. Denise.
I have nothing,
Nothing?
yeah, no.
Okay. Mr. Renzi? I'm sorry, he's not here. Mr. Morrow?
Okay, I was just down at the yacht club a couple of days ago. It looks really good. The exception, it looks like a little bit of damage on the south side. Still has yellow tape around it. I think that's part of the boat dock area, boat ramp area.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Sure.
So I apologize. In my updates, I meant to speak about the hurricane damage. I apologize for that. So we did have some hurricane damage along our waterfront areas. It has damaged quite a bit, and I'll kind of go through those if that's okay. The Riverview Park twin piers, the two piers that are on the southern end, the south pier sustained damage to 3 or 4 of the finger docks. They will have to be replaced. That process, we've kind of just gotten some clearance from FEMA that we're eligible, so we're working on price estimates for that at this time. The shoreline along Riverview Park, also, we saw some substantial erosion. The water level did come up across the entire grass field at the Twin Piers area, which has damaged our irrigation system, our electrical system, and as I mentioned, shoreline, we had substantial erosion there. So, there's some temporary shoreline reinforcement we're going to do. However, we have talked internally at staff level about looking to FEMA for some mitigation measures to try to prevent the amount of erosion that we had this time. And then also, we're going to be looking at, fixing, repairing, replacing the irrigation and electrical that was damaged by being underwater. Irrigation pumps went under. All of the electrical outlets went underwater. So we had some issues there. And then as you continue to move further north, we had the yacht club, the north dock on the ramp. The entire dock was lifted. The pilings were lifted out of the water. Not completely out of the water, but they were all lifted up, and some of it to the tune of, over a foot and a half of lift. So with that also, we're working to get cost estimates. We met on site with FEMA and the Department of Emergency Management and the county, reviewing all of our damage, and they just directed us to wait until we got clearance to make sure it's going to be eligible. So we didn't do anything that could possibly damage the procurement process that we have to follow for FEMA. Moving further north along the walkway, doesn't really pertain to parks, but we did have a section of the sidewalk on Indian River Drive that was eroded underneath, and we had to remove that entire section. And then as you continue to go north, and once you get to the Main Street boat ramp, that area there across from Harbor Lights, we had some significant, once again, erosion that took place. So that'll all be things that we're working towards here now that we've gotten the okay to start doing some repairs and remediation of areas with that. So that's kind of for the most part, we had some damage here at City Hall, but for the most part, it was all kind of relegated to the waterfront area and due to the storm surge that we got.
I have a question about the park. How did we do with the volleyball sand area and the playground after the storm?
So the water did not make it across Indian River Drive. It came right up to Indian River Drive, but Twin Piers grass lot area is a little bit lower in elevation, so it did receive the majority of the flooding. As you continue to go north, the water didn't quite make it to Indian River Drive. So as far as getting into the park, we did not have any water get in there. We had heavy rains the first day, and then we didn't get too much rain after that. So we were fine with being able to hold the water on site in our swell areas at the park and the retention areas which surround the volleyball court. So that entire area there received no damage.
Thank you.
Should I continue? Okay, so yacht club overall looks great. Sat there, I watched people putting boats in and out of the ramp, with the exception of the piers that came up. Of course, we don't know that. All we see is yellow tape. But overall, the yacht club looks great. People really enjoying it there. Main Street boat ramp, no problems other than the erosion that you mentioned. Over at the pickleball courts, I had mentioned to you about court number 2 and the net. I think it still needs to be replaced because it's a lot shorter than the others and it's kind of cockeyed. So if they go and take a look at that, maybe they can just adjust the net. Okay, and that will be okay. I think you were going to have some on order.
We did have some on order. We had, I know 3 out of the 4 were on back order. I know they replaced one of them. I'll check and see if they've came in at this point. What we did was when we ordered them, they had one in stock that was shorter. And I said, send it to me because we had to replace, one of the nets for sure, that needed to be replaced. The other ones that were the regulation size that we typically get were on back order. I'll check and see if those have came in yet. And the same thing in regards to just in case you're gonna ask, the tensioner that goes on the side of the pole. I know, one of those is broken, one of them we're having issues with. We're waiting for those to be received from our contractor, that they fell underneath warranty. And so we won't have to pay, but it is a little bit of a delay getting those. Some of the things that we always took for granted that we could get pretty quickly, we're seeing now a little, delays on these things, and the delays are lasting a little longer than we anticipate. But I'm finding that with tennis, pickleball, even basketball nets at the current time.
Okay. Well, I'm just mentioning it to keep it on the middle burner rather than the back burner. Some of the players there at the park went and made some paddle racks, and they hooked them onto the fence. So that is working out pretty good. We're starting to get a lot of snowbirds coming in. So the amount of people that are showing up to play has increased fairly significantly since what it was during the summertime. But other than that, everything is working good. Lights work, bathrooms work, water fountains work. Good to go. That's it.
Ms. White, do you have anything?
No, the park actually has been pretty good. The lights are nice when, in the park at night. The only thing, and I know this has nothing to do with it not being done, but the pressure washing on the tables and benches, those Muskogee ducks are so messy. I wish there was some way that we could relocate them to another friendly area without picnic tables and benches. So it's an ongoing cleaning process. I know Brian and I have talked about it before, but are we still on a schedule for cleaning on that, Brian, or is it a call out when we need it?
Madam Chair, if I may. Yes, we have the pressure washing of those areas on a quarterly basis. And it's currently being held to that schedule. If it's something, we can look into it to see if we need to do it more frequently, but currently we have it scheduled on a quarterly basis.
All right, thank you.
All right, and I don't have anything, I'm sorry. I haven't been out. So we're gonna continue the discussion on the disc golf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the last meeting in October, we started a discussion that had been brought to this board by a resident or a few residents in regards to disc frisbee golf. Some people call it frisbee golf, some people call it disc golf. I'm just going to kind of refer it to both ways. And so the board had discussion in regards to that. I had brought some history from previous discussions from City Council and Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee in regards to locations that were not approved in the past. This board asked me to do a little bit more research and look into the possibility of Filbert Park. At the October meeting, I showed you all an aerial of ideas that I had that could potentially work. And Mr. Todd Clifton came and presented on behalf of the pickleball players at the October meeting.
Pickleball or disc golf?
Disc frisbee golf, it's kind of the same thing, so.
Okay, you said pickleball, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
That's
apologize.
okay.
Mr.
Wanna make
Morrow's
sure I
got
got
my
it
pickleball brain going here. I gotta make sure those nets are taken care of. So disc golf, I met with Mr. Clifton shortly after our October meeting. We met on site. I wanted to get an idea because I did not think that the park had enough acreage based on my research and what I had looked into. So as you all asked me to do, I met on site with him. We walked the entire park. We walked the pathways, the pathway that goes into the woods. You know, I'd expressed some concerns with if we look at doing this project, the wooded area that we have pathways through, I think we would have to eliminate the casual walking through there, because their, you know, line of sight doesn't really work in your favor, that if someone is throwing a disc down the pathway, and you're coming from a different angle, there's some left-hand turns. It's a big rectangular area, for lack of a better definition of it, inside the woods. So there are some 90-degree turns in there that would have to be factored in. Mr. Clifton seemed to think it would work, though. However, he you know, referenced some other locations that had disc golf. It works with people walking, people playing disc golf. So we walked inside the inside pathway. We discussed about some additional clearing that could potentially take place if this project goes forward. Once again, we're still in the beginning stages. We're still kind of looking at the option. No formal designs have came out of this. And it would be something that would obviously have to go to city council in the future as well if it was a recommendation of this committee to go forward. So in our outline, we kind of developed or walked the entire inner loop of the wood area and then out into the open grass lot area as well. Keeping everything on the outer limits so that we didn't, you know, come close to the playground or the parking area. We tried to stay away from those areas when we were looking at it. So I've asked Mr. Clifton to kind of come up with a sketch so that he can come back to you all. Like I said, it was something that was brought from the residents, so I want them to have involvement in it. It's not, you know, city came up with the idea and it was our direction. But I just wanted to provide you all with that input that I had met with him. I know that he had told me he was traveling around the holidays, so I think December and January he might not have been able to attend the meetings. But we did meet, we walked it. I feel as though, once again, if the decision was made and it was finally approved to do disc golf in the wooded area, we would have to kind of limit it to disc golf or identify certain hours that they were allowed to play and certain hours you're allowed to walk. I just think that's my little bit of my fear with that.
So I went to, I was at a birthday party at the Hobart Park, and I found out there's disc golf there, and I just thought, I don't know that I'd want the Frisbee flying, but I'm sure they know what they're doing and can not hit people, but I mean, I just think if you're sitting there or walking around, I don't think it's good to have both at the same time. So if I was going to be a walker at Filbert Park, I would go when nobody was playing Frisbee golf. I think you could do both.
I think we talked about this park. There wasn't always a lot of walking being done in the park. Maybe there'll be more now if it's getting cleared out. But there could be a way that, you know, when someone is going to play Frisbee golf, there could be a sign there where they flip it, you know, and they say, you know, golf in process or something, so people are aware when they're walking. I don't know, but
That's a good idea.
I'm hoping that we get some good feedback from them, because I think this is something that would be a plus for the park and also for the city. Brian, are we looking at 9 nets? Is that what they were going to look at? Not 18, 9, wasn't it?
So whenever we met on site, the layout is conducive based on Mr. Clifton's recommendation that we could eventually get to 18 on the site. He felt pretty comfortable with that. You know, my recommendation is if it is something that eventually we move forward with, we kind of start a little smaller and build up to that. But you are correct. I mean, there are ways to get away with whether we identify certain times that you're allowed to do one or the other with walking and disc golf, or if we come up with you know, that's not a bad idea to have a sign that that when people are actively playing, it's identified. But then that also just leaves it up to, the resident to flip it on and flip it off type situation to where, that's probably gonna be forgotten at times. But as far as not 18 holes, he did feel comfortable that 18 holes could fit in that footprint and it would work.
I think it's something, we'll hear back from them and the group, but it's something to look at. So we'll just see where it goes from here. But, okay, thank you.
Mr. Renzi, you haven't, Mr. Renzi is not here. Mr. Denise, you have anything?
When you look at the counties. I'm sorry.
It is now.
Okay. When you look at the counties park, it's 18 holes, and I think it's sort of less spots. I think we should, if we're going to go forward with this, it should be 18 holes. And look at it as like a golf course.
The only thing is, just to your question there, personally, I think if we do it, I think we should start with 9. And if there's that much of an interest, then we can always add on to it, because I don't think the expense is that much. Just my opinion. I think just try it out and see how it works.
Mr. Morrow, you have anything? No? Okay, can we have people in the, is that the audience? We're going to open up for public comment.
I'm Kathleen Simpson, and I live at 120 Landover Drive, and my yard backs up to the Filbert Street Park. I can tell you that people do use the walking paths, and I use the park to walk my neighbor's dog when he's unable to come home during the middle of the day because he works. And I walk through that park every day. And I'm curious to know how much of the acreage of the park 18-hole disc golf would take up.
Can I ask you that? How much?
Sorry?
Can we answer her question now?
I mean, it's up, I'd prefer to answer questions at the end after we get through with public input.
Okay, thank you, Brian. So, yeah.
Okay, so that's my comment for now.
Okay, thank you.
So this group that we have right
So
here, my
can
name
you-
is Richard Barnes.
Thank you.
This group we have is all people that live on Filbert. So we're concerned about this. We're concerned about cars. We're concerned about just ruckus. When we bought our houses, we looked at that park. That was one, our grandkids could go to that park, not to have frisbees, not to have crazy things going on at their park. The nice, calm park, not any of this other stuff. Do you have a video of exactly what it would look like, of having Frisbee Park going on and what the cars look like and where's the bathrooms and just, we need to see it, on video, some other park in that square footage that we could come up with, But anyways, I just think that we don't have sidewalks. We're just, I don't think we can handle it. It's too small of a park. We want it for our kids. We want it for our people walking dogs, and that's our green space on Filbert. We like it that way.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Polly McKinney. I live at 90 Joy Haven, which is at the...
The other microphone?
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Polly McKinney. I live at 90...
Spell McKinney, please.
McKinney. I live at the corner of Joy Haven and Filbert. The walking part of the park, the wooded area, comes all the way back to the back of our home. We use that walking park all the time, as well as the open part of the park. It's the only part of the park in the summertime that has any shade in it so that you can get out and enjoy walking in the area. And it's full of wildlife. I could not even begin to estimate how many gopher tortoise holes that are back there in that park area. There's frequently bobcat and rabbits and hawks and osprey. They nest in that area. There, in the wintertime, there's all kinds of winter birds that come through there and use that area. I am very concerned to hear that we would even consider restricting use of the park during certain hours of the day. When we've had use of this park and we bought our homes because of this park, from sun up to sundown. So that's very concerning to me. I'm also very concerned about the neighborhood area because we do not have sidewalks. And our neighborhood is utilized continually any time of day that you can go and you will see people either biking or walking their dogs or walking their children around the area. I know when you bring in a facility like this, it will attract people from other areas. It won't just be the residents of Sebastian that will come and use this facility. And this association that the gentleman that you're speaking about belongs to is an association, which means it's not limited to Sebastian. So I am very concerned about our quiet little neighborhood area being opened up as if it were some main area. There's lots of land out in the county area where the pool is, places like that, that I would think would be amenable to this type of activity versus bringing it inside of a neighborhood where people are living. And their homes literally back up to this park. So walking trails, that's different. That's just people strolling through, not that big of a deal. Most people aren't going to drive to come walk through this little wooded area park. But people will come for things like pickleball and things like golf that we're not comfortable with it just attracting that traffic into our area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? So we're going to close, oh, never mind, wait a minute.
I'm sorry, I'm Wayne Cornwell. I live at 185 Filbert Street, across from the park. I've moved there 27 years ago. I've fought the county, when the county owned it from the water plant, because they wanted to put a women's softball league in there. We've been here arguing about the pickleball courts 6, 7 years ago. It is a residential area completely around this park, and we'd like to keep it that way.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we're going to, you're not public input. No. Right? I need to close public input right now. I'm going to close public input. That's all. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to make a comment on the what we're talking about here, the disc frisbee golf. Based on what I'm hearing from the residents that live in the area, I think I have a problem with taking a park and making it a dual use. That you can play frisbee at some times and you can walk at others. These folks bought their houses to live by the park. They use the park. They shouldn't be denied that ability to go use the park whenever they want. I don't think taking any of our parks and making it a dual-use area is really a good idea. I would recommend, when you talk with Mr. Clifton, is it? Okay, who represented the people that want to do the frisbee golf, is to get with him and let him research other areas around town that are not parks, okay, that might be able to be used to do frisbee golf, and let them come to us with some alternatives other than one of the parks that's already being used by the residents of the city. And that's my recommendation.
So if I could add, what I heard was not make it a dual-use park. Brian was just throwing out ideas. So trying to, please everybody is really hard. Nobody wants anything in their backyard. We all feel the same way. For me, I would say, we see a group of people that do not want it. I don't see one person here for the disc golf. So for me, until we have I wasn't here the last meeting, so I apologize, until we have people coming and saying they really want disc golf. And maybe we find a place that it's not in, somebody's backyard that they're already using it as a walking park, but we've been trying to get disc golf here for a long time. We just haven't found the best spot for it. So that's my thoughts on it.
Madam Chair, originally, when it was brought to my attention by having it, and I did some research, I would have problems putting a location here for multiple reasons. Number one, I hear the citizens with their concerns. I had problems before trying to downsize things to make things work. I don't think is a good idea. Going from an 18-hole to a 19-hole or 9-hole, I would object to, because I think it's harder to build afterwards. I appreciate the gentleman coming and his work in there, and I'm not opposed to this here, but I do think we would have to have a big enough piece of property where you'd have to have an 18-hole. To go into something, I believe you become a product of your environment. And if you go into something and try to make it work and downsize, very seldom have I found that you expand into something that's first class. It was brought to my attention because it was, as an 18-hole, this is a national event, which I didn't know when I started the research. I didn't know nothing about this, but I do believe you have to listen to your citizens. And tonight just reinforced my ideas that you can't make something fit into an area. If we don't have the area to do it, then I don't think we need it. That's my opinion.
Has there been any other areas proposed?
So I'm just trying to think back to the past couple meetings. Just to make this clear, this wasn't presented to staff. This was an idea that came from the committee to staff, and then a member of the public also presented it at the last meeting. The direction given to staff was, hey, let's look at Filbert Park. So that's why I didn't want to go, and I explained it at the last meeting, I don't want to put too much time and effort into it if you as a committee, you as a board, do not want to move forward on it. I think I think it's fair to, allow the disc golf people to look at other options. I think we did discuss Schumann Lake Park, which is the one that has the island in the middle that is not an option. Filbert was discussed. There were concerns about gopher tortoises and the such at Filbert. Stormwater Park is not an option. That was a decision made by St. John's Water Management District many years ago.
Anything at Day Drive?
I don't know that my concern from the beginning has been the acreage. As was asked, how many acres does it take? I'm not a professional at disc golf. My research showed me that we needed substantial acreage. The person who spoke on behalf of disc golf and who plays in tournaments and participates had a much smaller footprint of the acreage. So I can't give you my opinion on acreage because, I guess it just bases on the difficulty that you can present in the format that is presented. So I don't know, I can't answer the acreage, but I don't know necessarily that we have many options, in my opinion, that are large enough to be able to accommodate it based on my research.
So,
I have a question. Brian, do we have, if we weren't going to look at Filbert, do we have any open areas like behind City Hall back there? Remember where we were going to put the pickleball courts at one time?
There's really, that's even a smaller footprint,
No.
behind the tennis courts. It's really just the size of a softball field.
now were they talking about bringing tournaments here?
I
No.
think they're the and I don't want to speak for the gentleman. That's not what I want to get into, the person that presented for them. I think there had been some discussion at some point, whether it's specific to Filbert or specific to disc golf, to have something that we could have potential tournaments to take place. Yes, that has been discussed.
So
I can't say where, when, and how.
Yeah, that wouldn't be appropriate, I think, at Filbert.
And I did bring that up when I first got involved with my research. The people that I talked to suggested that they could bring that enough people in there. I went to the county and saw, and they pointed out the only good thing about the county property is it's right next to a golf course, so it relates to golf. But you couldn't do anything there, and I would be afraid to sit down.
I was uncomfortable at the birthday
yeah.
party I went to.
Yeah, and that was a disaster. So the thinking originally, my thinking when I said I would go in and look at this, was that it would be something big to do. I have a hard time growing things. I think, especially in today's society, is where you're gonna, the way you start is what you're gonna be. And I think what the county did, which was pointed out to me, is just nothing that you could do anything. You can't fix it. And if we start small, I think we'd be in the same position. That's why I would be against that there. If you can't do it like a regular tournament. And I didn't know such things existed, but I do believe in listening to the people and researching it. Yeah. So this is much more than I anticipated, and it's one of those things I wish I didn't get involved, but I apologize, I did, and I brought it up, and maybe it's time to put it to bed. It's up to you.
So for me, I'm hearing that, and I don't know about Joanne, you can jump in. I'm hearing that we don't think that Filbert's appropriate for this disc golf.
I think we should let the gentleman, Mr. Clifton, come back. He was going to come back with some more information, I think, Brian, didn't you say? And we also need to hear from people that play disc golf. And I mean, this was something I think we just tossed out at the last meeting or the meeting before, just getting some ideas. There's nothing set that it was going to be at Filbert. We just wanted to see if there were residents that actually would want to have a place to do disc golf. Because my thing is, if we don't have the numbers, we don't want to put up something that's not going to be used.
Exactly.
So I think we're in the beginning stages. Disc golf is a very up and coming sport, just like pickleball was. And it gives people who don't play golf, don't ride bike, it gives people other opportunities to exercise and to be outside. So I think we should look at disc golf wherever it's going to happen, but I would like to hear more from residents who really say they would like to have it and are going to use it. So I think we can just keep talking about this until that time where we really feel it's something that a group is going to be using. So if it's at Filbert or any other park, I think first we have to hear if there's going to be enough people to make it worth the money and time to do.
Brian, can is it possible to get the videos on this here. I mean, I appreciate that gentleman coming in and taking his time, and the work he did. But I think, we're responsible too. And I learned a lot of this just from the videos from the organization. And I think maybe on our time, we should, I think that's the best way to sit there and learn about what it is. Do you agree with that?
Can you just clarify what exactly you're asking me to do?
Well, the association puts out videos. They have it for college. They have it. I didn't realize it was a semi-pro. And, I think it's just homework assignments for us to, if we really want to learn what it's about and everything, coming from a knowing nothing position, I was surprised how big this was. So maybe we all need to take time on our own time, rather than bring him back and if we bring him back, then we probably should bring a video and everything to
I would
show
think
the
that
people what it is.
we could go, anybody could go online and YouTube it maybe to see what it's about, or go down to Hobart Park and watch somebody play it, maybe.
If I may.
I just think that, for me, if we're gonna move forward, we should move forward with that gentleman and maybe bring in people and find a place that's appropriate. So have something like that.
Let me ask you a question. When you talk with this gentleman, where are they playing now?
They play Hobart, they use Hobart. And then he had mentioned, I think there's a course just north of here in Miko, maybe, but it's not, he said it is not user friendly. I don't play disc golf, so I don't know exactly, but that was his explanation to me. He felt comfortable that 18 holes would work at Filbert. Like I said, I know that he was unavailable in December and January, I believe January. He had given me that information. The plan was to have, a little bit of this discussion in November, but unfortunately due to the hurricane, we had to cancel the November meeting. So if you all would like, he's more than likely going to come back to the February meeting. Regardless, he's a member of the public. He can come and speak, but it could be something that we can, let him come in February and kind of have a discussion about their thoughts, what exactly they're looking for. If Filbert isn't the right fit, looking to see if there's anything else. I think I feel like we did that already. I feel like we looked at other options, and didn't really find anything. But if you all want to continue to go down this path and at least give them the option to continue discussions, then we can do that. And regardless, he can come and speak at public input. But I would like to keep it as an agenda item if that's what you all want to do. If not, then we don't have to do that as well. But it wouldn't be for January. It would have to.
Is he a city resident?
He is, yes.
I would prefer that you table this until such time as this gentleman is back.
Okay.
And is able to come to a meeting and present more information. I would also like to say, what the young lady said back there too. You have parking to consider. You have restroom facilities to consider for however many people are gonna come and play this. But I go back to what I recommended before. I don't see taking any of our parks and trying to make them dual use, where you can be a park at certain times and you can be a Frisbee golf course at another time. That doesn't make any sense. There's other places in the city you can go. Thank you.
Joanne, you have anything else?
No.
Okay.
So just so I have clear direction from the committee, do we have a consensus to bring this back at a future meeting, based on if Mr. Clifton's available to attend a future meeting?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he needs to really consider another spot.
And I'll make sure, I know that Mr. Barnes had reached out to me. Any future discussions we have on disc Frisbee golf at this committee, I emailed him this agenda, so they'll get a copy so that they're included as well. Okay. And if there's anyone else in the public that wants to give me their email address or anything, we can do that after the meeting.
And usually, when there's something that people want, they show up for it. I figured all these folks were in favor. Okay.
Well, Joanne, when you were,
Yeah?
when you were gone, I think actually the gentleman that brought up the Frisbee golf was on his own. He really didn't have the group, with him. It was just something that came out and was discussed. And I think we encouraged him, like I said, if this is something that your group or enough people want, then they need to come. But I don't think at that time, he came just to throw this out about the disc golf.
Oh, okay.
So I think if people want to come, they need to come to the next meeting or whenever we do to discuss it again.
Yeah, the next time it's on the agenda. Thank you. All right, we're up to new business. Discussion on the splash pad,
Madam Chair, if I may.
please.
So, this is a discussion requested by staff. As you all know, our splash pad has been there for 10, 12 years. What we're currently seeing is every single year we're replacing the pumps. There's two pumps there's a feature pump, and then there's a backside pump that we use for chemicals and recirculation. So the recirculation pump runs nonstop. It's constantly recirculating water, helps us to keep our chemicals in line. Feature pump is what pumps water to the features when it's activated. What we're finding is as this splash pad is aging, which, we're getting closer to that timeline of having to replace it. It's met its useful life. However, in order to continue to provide us an opportunity to service it, maintain it, one of the ideas that we've looked at is potentially closing down the splash pad for the winter months. When we see less usage, obviously, we get people that visit the community from colder climates that don't think it's cold. They're the ones that are using it, but for the most part, usage of the splash pad drastically reduces December, January, February. It's typically our windier months down there as well. So we're strictly staff's just asking for you all to discuss it. That was our thought process. I know there are a lot of splash pads. I don't have the exact number here further south that do close down for the winter. I think it would just help us with being able to, we've got a couple projects coming up. We just had the splash pad close for over 2 weeks recently to replace the recirculation pump. We've got to do some, the holding tank has to be resealed, relined. That has to be done. So we've got some projects that we, need to do, and we feel like that would give us time. So hopefully it would reduce the downtime during our busier months. If you've followed it closely, we typically have every couple months we're shutting it down for a few weeks because we have a pump that went out, or we're having an issue with the features or something of that nature. And we feel like this gives us the best chance to try to keep it open as long as we can during those better months.
So if you shut it off and don't run it for 3 months, does that, like some things, if you don't use them, they don't work very well anymore? Is that?
We've discussed this. We would, the circulation pump, we would continue to run it, probably not 24/7, but we would continue to make sure all the parts are moving and everything. It would give us time, obviously, when we have to reseal the holding tank, everything has to be shut down. We have to completely drain the system. It would give us an opportunity to do some of those things, while also allowing us to, keep things greased and lubed and make sure everything's working the way it should work. We did get, I failed to mention earlier, we did have one of the elements, one of the leaves that was blown off during Hurricane Nicole. So we do have that area. But that's kind of our thing. I mean, we're just asking for discussion on that.
I don't have a problem with it at all. Joanne?
I think we should try that, because then things will be maintained and checked. And if it's not being used that much during those months, that would be a good time to do it. And try it and then see what the feedback is from the public if they're feeling it's too many months to be, shut down. But I would say go for it and try it and see how it works for a year or so.
If that's a motion, I would second that. I think we should take the advice and shut down January, December, January, February.
I think we're all in agreement. Do we need to vote on that, or we're in agreement?
I mean, I don't know this, as long as we have a consensus, I mean, if it's unanimous, then great, but a consensus to move forward, and we'll see if we need to take it to city council for their approval. I just think yes, we will have an opportunity to receive some feedback from the public. We have a camera down there now, so I can kind of see what's been happening, as far as usage, recently. And I can tell you that it's nothing like our typical warmer months, and which is expected. But it runs a lot. The system runs a lot, and giving us 3 months of a little bit of downtime would help out. Hopefully, extend the life of this system and at least get us through until we can replace it.
Brian, how old is that? I don't remember when that was put in.
It's 12 to 15 years.
So are we looking at probably having to replace some of that here in the next few years, couple of years?
I'm confident we're not going to have to replace parts of it. We're going to have to replace all of it.
Okay, so that'll be a money item then, okay.
Yes.
Is there any possibility of leaving it open on weekends and shutting it down during the week?
My only concern with that is identifying which weekends. I mean, we start and stop the system. And I can tell you right now, we have some parts that need to be replaced right now that we already need that we're making it work until we could have this discussion. But starting and stopping it, I don't think is going to be good. I think if we make the decision, we go with it. If, we see that there is a lot of people there, then we can change, we can alter that discussion. But I think at this time,
I don't know anybody that's
giving
taking
it a chance.
to the splash pad right now.
Especially not this coming weekend. It's supposed to be pretty chilly.
Okay, so we have consensus for you to move forward. All right, so that's it. The items for the next agenda. The next meeting is January 23rd, 2023. If you have any items that you need to get on the agenda, get it to Brian.
Correct. Please get it to me. And before we adjourn, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I apologize for jumping in there, but I just wanted to say it before we were adjourned. But and thanks for everything you all do for the community. I don't know how many of you made it out to the Christmas parade, but some in the community have said it was the largest and one of the best that we've ever had. I will say from a staff level, it was logistically difficult because of how many people we had registered for it. But in my 4 years here for the Christmas parade, it was the most impressive of the decorations that everyone put into it.
Wow.
So I'll say it was a great evening. Everything went well from our standpoint. But just want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. Thank
you, Brian, and Merry Christmas to you.
And I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. It's 35 below zero here today where I'm at. So when you mentioned it being cold, I thought, you have no idea.
Oh my God.
But
Merry
it does, it's snowy. I'm in Alaska right now, but it's harsh. This is not a place for old people, just saying.
Okay, we're going to adjourn this meeting.
I second the motion.
We're adjourned. Good night.